Breaking news just dropped, and if you're struggling with bills right now, you're going to want to hear this. President Trump just announced plans for a new round of stimulus checks ranging from $1,000 to $2,000, and this could hit bank accounts sooner than you think. Welcome back to the channel where we break down financial news that actually matters to your wallet. I'm here to cut through the political noise and give you the facts you need to know. Today, we're diving deep into this stimulus announcement, who qualifies, when you might see the money, and what this really means for the economy. And stick around, because later in this video I'll share my personal take on whether this is actually a good idea or if we're setting ourselves up for bigger problems down the road. Let's get into it. So here's what we know so far. President Trump made this announcement through a press conference earlier this week, proposing a new economic relief package that would send direct payments to American households. The proposal includes checks ranging from $1,000 for individuals up to $2,000 for families, depending on income levels and household size. Now, let me be clear. This is still a proposal. It hasn't been passed into law yet. This means Congress needs to approve it, which could take weeks or even months, depending on how negotiations go. We've seen this movie before with previous stimulus rounds, and we know the process can drag out with debates over eligibility requirements, income caps, and the overall price tag. According to the preliminary details, the eligibility would likely mirror previous stimulus programs. We're talking about income thresholds, probably something like full payments for individuals earning under $75,000 and couples under $150,000 annually, with phase-outs for higher earners. Families with dependents would get additional amounts per child, potentially $500 to $1,000 per dependent. The stated goal? Economic stimulus. The administration argues that putting money directly into Americans' hands will boost consumer spending, help families catch up on bills, and inject life into sectors that have been struggling. They're framing this as a necessary measure to support middle-class Americans facing inflation and rising costs of living. But here's where it gets interesting and complicated. Let's break down what this could mean for three key areas: the economy, the markets, and you personally. Impact on the economy. Direct stimulus payments are designed to increase consumer spending immediately. When people receive these checks, they typically spend them on necessities first: groceries, rent, utilities, maybe catching up on debt. This injection of cash creates what economists call a multiplier effect. That money circulates through the economy as businesses see more customers, hire more workers, and those workers then spend their income. However, and this is crucial, we're not in the same situation we were in during 2020 or 2021. Back then, businesses were shut down and people genuinely couldn't work. Now, unemployment is relatively low. So the question becomes, is this stimulus, or is this just adding fuel to an already hot economy? The flip side? Inflation concerns. We've just started getting inflation under control after years of elevated prices. Pumping billions of dollars into the economy could reignite inflationary pressure. More money chasing the same amount of goods typically means higher prices. It's basic economics, and it's something we need to watch carefully. Impact on markets. Wall Street has mixed feelings about this announcement. On one hand, stimulus means more consumer spending, which is great for retail stocks, restaurants, entertainment companies, basically any business that relies on consumer dollars. We've already seen some sectors rally on the news. On the other hand, investors are worried about what this means for interest rates. If inflation picks back up, the Federal Reserve might have to keep interest rates higher for longer, or even raise them again. Higher interest rates are generally bad for stock valuations, especially growth stocks and tech companies. Bond markets are also reacting. If the government is spending more money, they need to borrow more, which means issuing more treasury bonds. Increased supply can push yields higher, which affects everything from mortgage rates to car loans. Impact on people, on you. For individuals and families, $1,000 to $2,000 could be meaningful help. If you're struggling to pay rent, dealing with medical bills, or just trying to keep food on the table, this money could provide real relief. It could help you catch up on delayed expenses, or build a small emergency fund if you don't have one. But let's be realistic. While $1,000 or $2,000 helps in the short term, it's not a long-term solution to financial struggles. If you're facing structural problems, low wages, high housing costs, healthcare expenses, a one-time payment is a Band-Aid, not a cure. And here's something most people don't think about. These payments might affect your taxes. Technically, stimulus checks aren't taxable income, but they're tied to your tax filing status and income. If your situation changes, or if there are clawback provisions, you could face complications during tax season. So why is this happening now? Let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. We're in a unique political moment. With economic concerns dominating voter sentiment, both parties are under pressure to show they're doing something tangible to help Americans. For the Trump administration, this proposal serves multiple purposes. First, it's politically popular. Direct payments poll well across the political spectrum. People remember the previous stimulus checks, and many Americans are still feeling financial strain despite what official economic data might say. Inflation has eroded purchasing power, and many families haven't recovered from the economic disruptions of recent years. Second, this is about economic philosophy. The administration is betting on supply-side benefits, the idea that stimulating demand will encourage business growth and job creation. They're essentially saying, we're going to put money in your pocket and trust that it strengthens the entire economy. But here's the political tension. This proposal will face significant debate in Congress. Fiscal conservatives worry about adding to the national debt, which is already at historic levels. We're talking about a program that could cost anywhere from $300 billion to $500 billion depending on eligibility requirements. That's real money that has to be borrowed or taken from somewhere else in the budget. Progressive voices, meanwhile, are arguing that if we're going to spend this much money, why not invest it in longer-term solutions like infrastructure, education, or healthcare reform? They see direct payments as politically expedient, but economically short-sighted. The Federal Reserve is also watching carefully. They've spent years trying to balance economic growth with price stability, and a massive stimulus could complicate their job significantly. All right, here's where I give you my honest opinion, and you might not agree with me. That's totally fine. I think direct stimulus payments are a tool, and, like any tool, their effectiveness depends on the situation. The question we should be asking isn't, are stimulus checks good or bad, but rather, is this the right tool for this moment? In 2020, when businesses were closed and people couldn't work, direct payments made absolute sense. We had a demand problem. People wanted to spend but couldn't, or they'd lost their income. Stimulus checks helped bridge that gap. But in October 2025, I'm more skeptical. Unemployment is relatively low, businesses are open, the economy is functioning. My concern is that we're using an emergency measure in a non-emergency situation, and that could create unintended consequences. Don't get me wrong. I know many families are struggling. Real wages haven't kept pace with inflation. Housing costs are brutal, and financial stress is real. But I wonder if direct payments are addressing the symptoms rather than the disease. Maybe we'd be better served by policies that tackle root causes: housing affordability, healthcare costs, wage stagnation. There's also the debt issue. Every dollar we spend now is a dollar that future generations will have to pay back with interest. I'm not one of those people who thinks we should never spend money, but we should be strategic about it. That said, if this passes and you receive a check, use it wisely. Don't blow it on stuff you don't need. If you're in debt, use it to pay down high-interest credit cards. If you're okay financially, build your emergency fund. If you're in good shape, consider investing it for your future. The money can help you personally, even if I have questions about whether it helps the economy long-term. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think these stimulus checks are a good idea? Are you dealing with financial struggles right now where $1,000 or $2,000 would make a real difference? Or do you think this is just political theater that's going to make inflation worse? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and I genuinely want to know what you're experiencing in your financial life. Also, let me ask you this. If you do receive a stimulus check, what's the first thing you're planning to do with it? Pay bills? Build savings? Treat yourself to something? Let me know in the comments. And here's a question I'm really curious about. Do you think direct payments like this actually help the economy? Or do they just provide temporary relief without solving underlying problems? This is something economists debate constantly, and I'd love to hear your perspective as someone living in the real economy, not the theoretical one. If you found this breakdown helpful, do me a favor. Hit that like button. It tells YouTube to show this video to more people who need this information. All right, let's wrap this up. President Trump has announced plans for $1,000 to $2,000 stimulus checks, but this is still just a proposal that needs to pass through Congress. If it happens, it could provide short-term relief for millions of Americans, but it also raises questions about inflation, national debt, and whether we're addressing the right problems. My advice? Stay informed, but don't count on this money until it's actually signed into law and you see a deposit date. We've seen proposals fall apart before. Plan your finances based on what you have, not what might come. Keep an eye on this channel because as this story develops, I'll be breaking down every update, when Congress votes, what the final eligibility requirements are, and when you can expect to see money in your account. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button right now. We're building a community of people who want to understand money, make smarter financial decisions, and cut through the BS in financial news. And turn on notifications so you don't miss the updates on this stimulus situation. Things are moving fast, and you want to be in the know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay informed, stay smart with your money, and take care of yourself.